Syracuse basketball made the cut for Kiyan Anthony's Final Six.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, Kiyan Anthony has released his final six schools that he is considering, and Syracuse basketball made the cut, so we're going to go over that. The significance of possibly getting Kiyan Anthony and what else to look for in the recruiting trail for Syracuse basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So the big news just a couple days ago, Kiyan Anthony has released his top six that he is considering. He is a 2025 four-star guard. He is 6'5", 185 pounds from New York. Of course, he is the son of Carmelo Anthony. Kiyan's top six include Syracuse, but also Auburn, Ohio State, Florida State, USC, and Rutgers. So if you were to say which one you would least like him to go to, you'd probably say an ACC rival, or somewhere within the region like Rutgers, right? So I'm talking about Florida State and Rutgers, but that's the top six, the final six for Kiyan Anthony. The only real surprise here is nothing Syracuse related, actually. It's the fact that Indiana was not included in that top six, or he didn't expand it to seven just to include Indiana. The reason why it's surprising is because, well, their head coach is Mike Woodson, and he has a good relationship, obviously, with Carmelo Anthony back with the Knicks. And also, Indiana, NIL money through the roof, right? So a little bit surprising that Indiana is not in that final list of schools. Maybe it's a good break for Syracuse. Maybe it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But the point being is that was really the only surprise of that final six. Every other school that is listed there has been in or around Kiyan Anthony's recruitment for a while. So it was not unexpected for those guys to make it. Just was surprised about Indiana. Obviously, Syracuse was expected to make it. They made it. Syracuse has made him a priority recruit in 2025 for good reason. He's a good prospect, right? And we'll get to that later in the podcast when I talk about the significance of landing Kiyan Anthony. Now, Syracuse is the perceived favorite. I think many of you guys that are watching or listening know that. Syracuse is considered the front runner, and I would stay away from maybe those people who might say, you know, I just spoke to Kiyan Anthony. I think it was DeJuan Coleman tweeted it out or put it on Facebook. I just spoke to Kiyan Anthony. He's coming to Syracuse. Here is what gives me optimism, right? Here's what gives me optimism at the end of the day. It's the fact that a lot of recruiting analysts are saying that the favorite is Syracuse for Kiyan Anthony. Back in mid-May, on threes, Joe Tipton, a very reliable, trustworthy source, logged a prediction saying that Syracuse basketball was the front runner for Kiyan Anthony, right? That's why the odds are on three at about 90%, right? Also on Rivals, there were two other predictions in favor of Syracuse coming from Richard O'Leary and Andrew Barth. So that's three analyst predictions that have Syracuse landing Kiyan Anthony, which is obviously a really, really good sign, right? Having said that, it's still six that he is considering. So you never know. Things can always change, but for now, Syracuse appears to be the front runner for Kiyan Anthony, which is a good thing. Now, I know you guys might be asking, what's the time frame? When can we expect a commitment? Will it happen next week? Next month? When's it going to happen? I have the answer for you. It was on 24/7 Sports from Deshaun London. The commitment time frame for Kiyan Anthony is around November right before the high school basketball season starts. That is what Kiyan Anthony has said. So it's going to be a little bit. It's going to be a little bit until he actually makes his decision. Also, another factor as to why that might be the case, Kiyan Anthony has said that he plans on visiting all 6 of his final list of schools. Not so different from Acaden Lewis, who released his top 8. Syracuse, of course, made that top 8. And Acaden Lewis plans to visit all 8 of those schools. So similar thing with Kiyan Anthony. He's got 6 schools remaining, and he's going to give all of them at least some sort of chance to get them. I know that I've read somewhere that Kiyan Anthony wants to go to Ohio State to see a football game. Obviously, the Ohio State football games are probably nuts. I've never personally been to Ohio State to see a football game. It's definitely on a bucket list, though. If you were to put a whole bucket list of things to do in sports, going to Ohio State football would seem like one of those things. So he's gonna take these visits. For now, we're considered the front runner, and that's the positive note here. So buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride. Obviously, it's a good thing, even though it was expected. It was expected that Syracuse was going to make the final 6, right? Or whatever list he was going to trim it down to, because they've made him a priority recruit. He has visited campus already. But it's still nice to see, right? It's still nice to see, like, all right, they did make it. Now they're really in the thick of it, and they're the front runner. They're the front runner as of July 27th. So once again, buckle up, because this is going to be hopefully a really fun ride. Once again, Kiyan Anthony's top 6 includes Syracuse, also Auburn, Ohio State, Florida State, USC, and Rutgers. And as far as a decision, like I said earlier, it's not going to happen until probably November. Those are Kiyan Anthony's words, not mine. Obviously, we wish he would commit tomorrow, but take all the time you need. All right, let's move on to the significance of Kiyan Anthony in just a moment. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. A free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the streaming. Locked On Sports Today means you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Welcome back, everyone, into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and on today's show, we are going over Kiyan Anthony's final 6 and the fact that Syracuse basketball did in fact make the cut. It was expected, but still, it's good to see that Kiyan Anthony has Syracuse included in that final list of schools. And also the Orange, by at least 3 recruiting analysts out there, have Syracuse as the front runner for Kiyan Anthony. So that's the positive news there. Decision, once again, probably not going to happen until November. Those are Kiyan Anthony's words, not mine. So now let's go over the significance of possibly getting Kiyan Anthony. And I think first and foremost, what's important here might deviate from what you guys think. The most important thing is that he's a good player. Like, straight up, he's a good player. This is not a 2-3 star recruit. He's just inside the top 200. Maybe it's some recruiting services. He's like the 115th best player. There's nothing wrong with those players. You need those players. And sometimes, occasionally, they do end up breaking out and being late bloomers and looking really good, right? Not every great player in the history of college sports has been a 4 or 5 star. Having said that, Kiyan Anthony is not one of those. He is a really, really good prospect, really talented, consensus top 50 prospect. And I'm honestly putting it lightly. It's more like he's a consensus top 40. There is just one site out there, I believe it's Rivals off the top of my head, that has him at 41. So I could not say consensus top 40. I had to round up to top 50, unfortunately, but you get the idea. This is one of the better prospects in the country. It's not just Carmelo Anthony's kid and the fact that Carmelo Anthony obviously won a national championship with Syracuse, led the Orange to that title. It's not like he's just the son. This is actually a really, really good basketball player. He projects to be an elite scorer at the next level. He's got a nice jump shot. He can also still grow into his frame. And if you grow into your frame, that's certainly one way to improve. Obviously, you get stronger, you get bigger, right? We had on Sam Lance, the podcast, the other day, and he talked about how he could be a forward at the next level. So if maybe he grows an inch or two, maybe he fills out his frame a little bit more. Perhaps he can go from a 6'5" shooting guard, which is what he's listed at right now, to a 6'6" small forward, right? But it all depends on whether or not he's going to grow and fill his frame or not. But the point being is that Kiyan Anthony is a consensus top 50 prospect, and that is significant in of itself. Even if that was the only thing about him, he's a really good prospect. It's someone that we should want as Syracuse fans. Number two of why this is significant. Getting Kiyan Anthony could be a package deal. And by package deal, I mean it could also mean Tyler Jackson is coming to Syracuse. Now, it's not guaranteed, but we had on Sam Lance the other day who talked about it. I've put the article in the description below multiple times about Tyler Jackson. I've spoken about on the podcast and how he said him and Kiyan Anthony are talking about possibly teaming up and playing together at the next level. And that school would probably be Syracuse in all likelihood. We still have to look out for Tyler Jackson's final list of schools. It might come out today, honestly, because that's just usually my luck. I post a podcast and then, of course, it comes out, right? But we'll get to that later in the podcast. But these two grew up together in the DMV area, playing with and against each other. Also, Tyler Jackson is significant too. He's a consensus 4-star prospect. And a couple months ago, I had on Sam Kaiser, who is 24/7 High School Hoops. That's the Twitter account he runs. And he said on the podcast, this was a few months ago, so maybe you can take it with a grain of salt here, that Syracuse was the front runner for Tyler Jackson, and that if any school was going to steal him, it would be Maryland. So the thing to take away from that is essentially a 2-horse race for Tyler Jackson. If you can land Kiyan Anthony at Syracuse, I think the odds, this is just my opinion, the odds would increase that they also land Tyler Jackson. If you can land both those players on top of already having Sadiq White, assuming, of course, he stays in the 2025 class, and for now, nothing is official. I have seen the rumors out there, obviously, and we've talked about it a little on the podcast. Assuming Sadiq White stays in the class of 2025, doesn't reclassify to 2024, staying with Syracuse, don't worry. You would have Sadiq White, Kiyan Anthony, and Tyler Jackson. I would say it's safe to say that would be a top 10 recruiting class in the country for the second straight year. And they might not be done after those three. Obviously, Acaden Lewis, they're in the top 8 for him. Who knows with Chris Senack, Asher Elson, Ryder Frost, and all those guys that they're offering. Dante Allen is someone I haven't even talked about on the podcast yet. You get Tyler, the point being is that if you get Kiyan Anthony, you're going to get at least one player to probably follow him too, maybe even multiple players. So getting Kiyan Anthony is critical. Another thing that's significant is the fact that Syracuse is considered the favorite. And what I mean by that is it is important to cash in when you are the favorite, right? Syracuse was the front runner for Sadiq White for the most part. They really were, especially towards the end. It got to that point where most of us predicted he was going to Syracuse. That's how it is right now with Kiyan Anthony, but we're still months away from him making a decision. Syracuse, though, is considered the front runner. And when you are the front runner for a recruit, it is important to cash in, because when you're the front runner, you're spending a lot of resources to keep it that way. So it is important that Syracuse does spend the resources to keep it that way and ultimately land him as the favorite. Most of the time, when recruiting analysts say, this player I predict is going to go here, they're usually right. Have they been wrong before? Yes, they have been wrong before. No one is going to bat 1,000 here. But they get paid to typically be right. So oftentimes when they make their predictions, they're not wrong. It's important to cash in on that, right? And finally, you can't leave it out with Kiyan Anthony. He is Carmelo Anthony's son. And I just think from an optics standpoint, it is important to land him. Optics-wise, even though sons and daughters don't always follow their parents in their parents' shadows, parents' footsteps, right? Even though they don't always do the same thing or go to the same college, get into the same profession, especially in a case like this, it does feel a little bit different with Kiyan Anthony in terms of an optics standpoint. Like, you got to get him, right? He's in your backyard. He's in your backyard. You've had all these visits. You're the favorite. He's Carmelo Anthony's son who led the team to a national championship. It just feels different that they kind of have to get this kid. I remember I spoke about, who it was before even Sadiq White committed to Syracuse. I spoke about on the podcast which one I would prefer. If I had to choose between Sadiq White and Kiyan Anthony. And I said on that podcast, you can double check me on this, that Sadiq White is considered the better prospect, at least during that time. It might change. Sadiq was the better prospect, so I would want the better prospect. But from an optics standpoint, it's definitely Kiyan Anthony. Like, if Syracuse had missed out on Sadiq White before they were really, really considered the front runner, I don't think people would have batted too much of an eye over it. You miss out on Kiyan Anthony, it would just kind of sting. Obviously, if he makes a decision that's not Syracuse, I'm not going to be upset at Kiyan Anthony himself. I would be upset at the situation. I think most of us who are watching and listening to this would be the same way. Remember, they don't always follow in the same footsteps, but it would be nice if he did, right? Arch Manning, though, went to Texas. That's not Tennessee. That's not Ole Miss. Where did the dad go? I know he played for the New Orleans Saints. I forgot where he went to school, but anyways, it doesn't always happen where they follow in the presence of their father or their mother, but I just hope in this case it does work out that way. So those are the 4 significant reasons why getting Kiyan Anthony is big. Number 1, he's a really good prospect, so on that alone, that's good. You want a good prospect. It could be a package deal, right? If you get Kiyan Anthony, you're probably going to get Tyler Jackson too, and you might get more on top of that as well. Number 3, they're the favorite. You got to cash in as the favorite. And number 4, it's Carmelo Anthony's son. There is significance to that. You can't just ignore it. It is really out there. The optics-wise make it even more important to land Kiyan Anthony. So let's hope that when that decision rolls around in November, that it is positive for Syracuse. Now, coming up, what else to look forward to or what to look for Syracuse on the recruiting trail? I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And speaking of Syracuse basketball, FanDuel has released the Orange's odds of winning the national championship next year at plus 12,000. Now, I imagine if they were to land Kiyan Anthony along with Sadiq White and maybe Tyler Jackson, possibly others, those odds for 2025-26 would be a lot lower or higher, however you want to say it, but it won't be plus 12,000. It would probably be plus maybe 2,000, 3,000, right? But regardless, for next season, it's at plus 12,000. Those are long shot odds, But hey, you'd make a nice profit if they were to somehow win the national championship, on top of being really happy that they actually won it. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Day now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Welcome back, everyone, into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. On today's show, we are going over Kiyan Anthony's final six, the fact that Syracuse is the favorite. I then gave you 4 reasons why it's significant to get Kiyan Anthony. If you have another reason, leave a comment in the comment section below. The 4 reasons that I gave were the fact that he's a really good prospect. He could bring on at least one other player with him if you were to commit. They're the favorite. You got to cash in. And the fact that he is Carmelo Anthony's son. We cannot downplay that. That is a real thing. Now, what else to look forward to, what to look for on the recruiting trail, however you want to phrase this, right? So let's start off with Tyler Jackson, a consensus 4-star prospect. He is a combo guard, but if they were to land a deep guard class, he would probably be the point guard for Syracuse basketball. He has not, to my knowledge, released his final list of schools yet. Having said that, I think it'll happen soon based on what I'm reading, what I heard from Sam Lance the other day. So look for Tyler Jackson's final list of schools, right? Kiyan Anthony was maybe a little bit later than expected when he would release it. I think I was anticipating from the article it would be earlier in the week than it was. So maybe the fact that he released it that time, a little bit later, maybe it's delaying Tyler Jackson. Who knows? But just be on the lookout for that. I would say the odds that Syracuse makes that final list for Tyler Jackson are significantly high. I don't want to put a number on it, but I would just say really high that they make the list. So be on the lookout for Tyler Jackson. Also relating to Jackson and Anthony, I think if they're going to get both of them, that, as Sam Lance alluded to on the podcast the other day, be on the lookout, keep your eye on if they visit together at some point, whatever campus it is. Hopefully it is Syracuse, but be on the lookout if they want to play together, them visiting campus at the same time. I don't believe they have done so yet, so just be on the lookout to see if maybe they do that. Also, Acaden Lewis, he released his top 8 schools. Syracuse made the cut along with 7 others that, quite honestly, are really stiff competition. Every blue blood is involved. Michigan's there as well. It's not going to be easy to land Acaden Lewis by any means, but when you're chasing these elite recruits, you're going to have elite competition. That's just how it goes. Those blue bloods deal with it too. They're not going to land everyone they want. So Acaden Lewis has said, according to 24/7 Sports, he told Deshaun London, that he plans on visiting all 8 of the schools that he has listed there. So just like Kiyan Anthony, visiting all the schools on the list. So keep your eye on if and when Syracuse does score an official visit with Acaden Lewis. Ryder Frost, a 4-star forward and also the class of 2025. He recently had an official visit with Syracuse. By all accounts, it went well. Don't have a final list for him. Don't have a decision time frame from him, but he took an official visit. So something to monitor whenever you get someone to officially visit campus. That is important. That means that there has been some level of resources that they have really been pouring into him. So maybe he'll be a part of the class. Maybe he won't. I won't put odds on it or anything like that, but it's significant when you get an official visit with a prospect. And finally, there are some Chris Senack. Hopefully Syracuse can land a visit with him. I remember there was an article about 6 weeks ago, I want to say, that said that he is considering taking a visit. So hopefully he does. Chris Senack is a 5-star center, one of the only big men that Syracuse is even targeting now. Obviously, Matthew Gilhool released his top 7 and Syracuse didn't make it. That was a little bit of a surprise. Asher Elson is a 3-star or 4-star, depending on the recruiting service. He's a center. Syracuse, I believe, would be in the mix for him. I think that I don't want to put odds on that one either. But Cenac is the big one. He is a 5-star prospect, and hopefully they can get a visit with him. If you can get a visit, you got a shot. If not, you don't have much of a chance. So hopefully they can make him a priority. Once again on this episode, we went on Kiyan Anthony's final 6, the significance of landing Kiyan Anthony, and what else to look for on the recruiting trail for Syracuse basketball in the class of 2025, which will hopefully be a really special class. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you liked this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next podcast. And let's hope that come November, Kiyan Anthony commits to Syracuse.